Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Reviews Books Badly. Today we're doing something a little different. I'm doing a movie review. I'm actually currently in the middle of two different books. I'm not ready to review either of them, so I figured I'd do a movie review, basically a summer recap of our box office views. This video is cursed. I've tried to make it 3 times already, so let's see if the 4th time is a charm, and let's get started. Okay, joining me for today's video is my co-host Brownie, as always. And like I said, we're going to be discussing the box office movies that we saw this summer. So some of the movies we saw actually came out prior to the summer, but we didn't actually see them until the summer. So we're going to include those. So the first movie was actually The Blackening. I don't think it lasted very long at the box office. I don't think it got really good reviews, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun movie. I like slasher flicks. I like horror comedy. This movie played on tropes of black characters, actors, African Americans, getting killed off first in horror movies. I'm not sure how true that trope is, because a lot of the horror movies I've watched as a kid growing up, a lot of characters of different races were endearing characters that ended up lasting till the end. But I guess, whatever. I enjoyed this film. Again, it was, slasher comedy. And the cool thing about slasher is normally characters get what they deserve. So in this, basically that's kind of how it rolled. Like the racist rednecks of the town, they got what they deserved. Basically, good comedy, good level slasher. Lots of people died. Pretty decent body count. Most of your main characters actually survived, which is kind of interesting. Like I said, I don't want to do major spoilers, but the tagline is "We can't all die first." So it was something that was, thought out, well planned. They had an idea, a premise, they ran with it. And like I said, I think they did a pretty good job. Pretty predictable for somebody who watches a lot of horror movies. I'm going to say it was a 2.5 stars out of 4. Again, I didn't think the body count was quite high enough. For me, I like slasher flicks. I like to see a lot of people die in movies. Characters that deserve it. In my opinion, that's kind of the whole point of watching slasher flicks, is to see people who deserve to go down get it. I think that's why the tropes like, the virgin survives, and those who don't do drugs and stuff throughout the film survive, that kind of idea, to scare people into being good people. Anyway, 2.5 stars out of 4. If you like slasher films, you might even give it an extra star. Like I said, you might want to save your money and just watch it at home or rent it. The second film that we saw was Fast X. Now, leading up to that, again, this is one of those ones that, damn, just died. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, so next film was Fast X. Again, this film actually came out prior to the summer, but we hadn't seen a single Fast and the Furious movie. I know kind of late on the bandwagon there, but I did want to see it, but I needed to watch all the rest of the film before I got into it to make sure that I knew what was going on, who all the characters were, etc., so forth and so on. Fun film. The whole Fast series, in my opinion, is a fun film. Very enjoyable series. If you haven't seen any of the films, it's worth watching. Just don't expect a whole lot of realism. It does not take itself seriously like that. In the film that came out prior to this movie release, they actually went into space in a car. So you know, don't take it too seriously and you'll have a good time. There's a lot of recurring characters. In this particular film, Dom and his family, he does say family like 52 million times in every one of these films. I know it's a joke, but it's true. Are up against Jason Momoa's character. And in this situation, Jason Momoa's character is playing the son of a drug dealer that was killed off in one of the prior films. So for him, it's personal, it's family involved. But they bring back just about every character that is still alive in the series, with the exception of Paul Walker's character. I'm glad they didn't try to figure out a way to bring him in. They don't need to use computer animation, CGI, or anything like that to bring back characters after the actor's dead if it's not necessary to plot. There's no point in doing that. But just about every other character was brought back. The movie is fun. Like I said, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but there's twists, turns. There's a lot of characters, a lot of people. So if you haven't seen the other films, you're not going to know what's going on if you don't watch them. So go ahead and watch them all. All things considered, 3 out of 4 stars for this one. After that, we went and saw Mission Impossible. Again, this is another series where I had not watched the films for a long time. I saw the first Mission Impossible movie years ago, and then never watched another one. For various reasons, I'm not going to go into. But we decided to flash watch all of the Mission Impossible and thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the characters. I like Ving Rhames. I really like Simon Pegg. He's one of my favorite character actors. That's been around for a while. Enjoy all those movies. So in this particular one, they add a new female character. Haley Atwell, I believe, is the actress who plays the part. And they add Pom Klementieff, the chick who plays Mantis in the Guardians movies. 2 really new characters added in that were really interesting. And then the male villain, I don't know his name off the top of my head. But good twists, good turns. With Tom Cruise doing his own stunts, he tries to up himself every one of these films, and he does a good job. There's just enough comedy from like Simon Pegg's character and Ving Rhames, and what's going on to keep it not too heavy and dark. But again, with the action scenes, the twists, the turns, the new characters, the returning characters. A lot of fun, really enjoyed it, 4 out of 4 stars. After that, we went and saw Barbie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed every minute of it. I thought it was a great film. I'm not going to get into the politics of it. A lot of people are talking about men bashing and whatnot. I don't think it's a film that is going to change many people's point of view of the world, but for me, it was a good harken back to the days of like 80s fun adventure films where you have a hero or heroine that, doesn't know what they're doing. They're kind of dumb or goofy or just unaware of, how the world works. So that's kind of what it is going into it. And, there's a lot of Barbie characters that if you're a girl or a guy who had Barbie dolls, you may have recognized ones that you collected or had over the years. And that itself is kind of interesting. And it just makes me think of like the 80s and growing up, with the G.I. Joes, the Mask figures. If you've never heard of Mask, that's a great toy that came out. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. But, just to see these different toys and the tropes and stuff like that, it made me feel like a kid again. With Pee Wee Herman passing away, I really was thinking about movies that I saw when I was a kid, and it kind of made me think of that. Now, that being said, this is not a kid's film. I know it's Barbie, and you're like, oh, it's about toys and whatnot, but it's not a kid's film. You probably shouldn't take your kids to see it. They'll probably be bored. They probably won't even enjoy it. My wife, she didn't really enjoy it very much. She liked the nostalgia piece of it, and like seeing all the Barbies that she had, and telling me about the Barbies, because I don't know very much about some of the ones that are obscure, but she knew all about them, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Barbie, I would say it's a 3 out of 4 film. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I left the film happy with a good feeling. I really liked the Kin song, the song sang by the Kins. It's near the end of the film, but it's really good. So 3 out of 4. The next film that we saw was Talk to Me. This is a horror film. And I'm going to get up on a soapbox for just a second and talk about horror and why I like the genre. And part of my problem with possession films. So if somebody were to ask me why I like horror movies, or horror books, or horror TV shows, or horror in general, I've always said it's because it has the most realism. It deals with problems that people deal with in real life. So in horror movies, you always have like families. They're dealing with the death of a kid, or the death of a mom or a dad. They're dealing with grief. They're dealing with losing their jobs, not having enough money, not being able to make rent. Having to live in a house that, maybe they don't want to live in because somebody died there or something like that, but they have to. But they don't have a choice because they don't have money and they have a combined family or whatnot. It's just, to me, that's why horror is so interesting. The people in it deal with real problems. If you watch romantic comedies or action, you're always dealing with these characters that are made of money somehow, and they never run out of money, and they can go to these massive vendor parties and spend tons and tons and tons of money without any repercussions. That stuff doesn't happen in real life. People don't really have that going on. So when you deal with horror people, they're dealing with real problems. So that's my soapbox, and that's one of the problems that I have with this film. So again, it's a possession film. Basically, these kids in Australia, it's set in Australia, it's an Australian film. The actors and actresses perform really well. You feel for them. You actually kind of like the characters. There's nobody in there that you're just like, man, that's a horrible character, and I really want them to get it. They're all good people and well acted. I don't know a lot of the actors and actresses' names, but some of the faces that appear, you're like, oh, I've seen them before. So there's that. So in possession films, basically what happens is normally characters have mental illness, or like a mental infirmity, like they're depressed, or they're cutters, or they've committed suicide at one point. The main character in this, her mom committed suicide, and her dad aren't talking. I'm just like, all right, talk to each other. It really pisses me off because mental illness runs rampant, and sometimes people don't get the help they need, and there's people around them who see that things are going on, and nobody handles it. So yeah, I know it's a horror film, and I know it's fiction, but I really felt for the characters. And typically when you watch possession films, one thing that you know is it's not going to have a happy ending. Possession films never have happy endings. So it's a good film. I definitely suggest you go see it. Basically, they get this hand that theoretically belonged to a medium, and it allows you to talk to spirits. And if you talk to the spirit for a little bit, you let the spirit come into you, you can get this kind of experience, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a party of drugs. They do it for fun and kicks, and they all sit around and laugh and film it. But if you go over a certain amount of time, the spirit won't leave. So, of course, that's what happens. And there's a lot of self-harm and whatnot that happens in this film. So if that kind of disturbs you and bugs you, don't go see it. They use sound effects really well, loud noises, jump scares. The formula is very cut and dry. For me, it's a 2.5 out of 4-star movie. Now, that's because I simply don't like possession for the reason I gave earlier. I don't like possession films for that reason. They bother me. But if that doesn't bother you, if you want a scary movie that deals with possession and you don't have a problem with that kind of stuff, you might think it's a 3 out of 4, maybe even a 4. I don't know. Mismanagement Gamer really liked it. So, all in all, that's my thoughts on that one. And the last film that we saw was The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So this is a take on kind of like side chapter. It's not really a chapter in Dracula, more so over like a couple of log books and stuff that's discussed throughout a chapter. Getting distracted here. Basically, this boat, the boat that carried Dracula from Romania to England, and what happened to the people who were on the boat. Because when the ship arrived in England, there's nobody left on it. Everyone's dead. So people want to know, well, what happened to those characters, and that's what this is. Really enjoyed this. Got a lot of good actors and actresses in it. Some of them I don't really know their name, unfortunately. It's not to say that they're not good actors, but I'm just not really familiar with them. They've been in stuff that I haven't particularly watched. Not to say that you shouldn't. One of the actors that I was familiar with was Liam Cunningham. He played the Onion Knight in Game of Thrones. I'm having like brain. It's going off of my own he's missing fingers. He's the Onion Knight. He is Sir Davos Seaworth. He's Stannis' like right-hand man, but he's a smuggler. But he's a good guy. He does what his conscience tells him to do. And the actor Liam Cunningham, who plays him, brings that to pretty much every role that he does. Like, you feel for this character, this honorable man. So he's the captain of the Demeter, and he takes on a crew, and they're taking this cargo from Romania to Britain. Now, at the beginning of the film, it lets you know that it doesn't go well, because the film starts with the ship washing up on shore, and everyone's dead. So basically, then you go back and you watch the film, and you get to see what happened. A critic described it as aliens on a sailboat. And that's kind of what it is. It's people up against a monster that they are in no way prepared to deal with. And it's kind of claustrophobic. You're on the ship, it's dark, it's confined, and people are getting picked off one at a time. And, you know, the monster's Dracula, but it kind of has that alien film feel to it. Like, they set up this track, this plan. They're going to like scuttle the ship, and you know they're going to get away just in time and leave the vampire to die. And well, we know that doesn't happen. It's a good film. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well acted. Javier Botet does the motion capture for Dracula, and he's really awesome. He did the in the remake of It, he does the leper who attacks Eddie. He's all rotten, and he's really scary. Does a really good job with those motion capture. He's really tall and lanky, and like just the motion capture monsters he brings to life. Does a great job. So I really enjoyed this film. This one for me was 4 out of 4. I love films where it's a side story or a side character where you can kind of figure out what happened with those characters and learn a little bit of that. It doesn't always work. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about the Wonka movie coming out, but I'll probably see it. So those are my box office reviews from the summer. Again, Blackening, good slasher flick, part comedy, part slasher. Doesn't take itself too seriously, but it is funny. Then Fast X, again, another action romp movie that doesn't take itself seriously. I enjoyed this one as well. Mission Impossible, action-packed, great stunts. Tom Cruise does what Tom Cruise does. Then you got Barbie, again, nostalgia film for me. I enjoyed that, hero that doesn't kind of know what they're doing, coming to save the day and growing as a character. Good song from Ken at the end. Talk to Me, possession film, very scary. Gets me here. So I don't really like watching them, but you'll probably enjoy it if you like possession and horror. And finally, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Again, it's kind of like a side story from Dracula. Pretty interesting. Definitely suggest it. And for me and Brownie, go see some movies. Next week, we'll probably have a book review, like I said. Hopefully, I'm going to finish one of the 2 books and do a review on it, or get close enough to finish that I can do a review that's unbiased. Look forward to seeing you then. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a good evening.